Hey guys, how you doing? This is JP Saricolia coming to you once again with another episode of Age of Heroes, my podcast. Today's episode, I would like to talk about something that I've been thinking I would say for the past couple of weeks. I've been playing recently a lot of fighting games. Kind of get into the group of things. I used to play a lot of fighting games, years ago. I grew up in the arcades. I've been playing it. If you have seen some of my videos, I've been doing a lot of streaming of first-person shooters, and streaming is just a part of what I do. I just do it for fun. But I do play a lot of first-person shooters, and I'm a big gamer, so I play a lot of games. And I've been playing first-person shooters for a few years now. It's been a while since I started playing first-person shooters, and I've been doing that I would say for very heavily for the past 5-7 years, which is cool. I do like first-person shooters. I think one of the reasons I got into a lot of first-person shooters was when actually I don't know if it was 5 years, 6 years ago. I don't remember. I started playing when the Street Fighter 4 came out, the arcade edition. I remember that I pre-ordered that game at my GameStop. So I went to pick it up. And there was a game for the PS3 called Mag. And the guy that was a friend, the GameStop that I used to go, he was a friend. He was a good friend. The manager there, he recommended me the Mag. He says, "Oh, you need to play this game. This is a pretty cool game." It was a massive shooter for the PS3 where you can play up to 128, players on the same screen at the same time, which was insane. And still to this day, it's insane to think about that amount of players. I don't think no other, not even Battlefield can match to that number. So he recommended it, and I said, okay, let's just do it. He just told me, you need to do it, you need to get it, and I just got it, and I took it home. I can tell you one thing. I got so hooked to it that I put aside Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. I played the original Street Fighter 4, so I played it to death. So I just put it aside, and I started playing the Arcade Edition. The Mag, and the rest was history. I got really hooked to first-person shooters, online first-person shooters, through Mag. And, of course, after that, I got into Battlefield 3 nonstop. I was just playing nonstop. I put so many hours into Mag. I was so sad when they closed Mag. And I don't know if you ever heard about that game. It was only a PS3 exclusive, but it was just massive. And it was well designed, in my opinion. It was a tough game. You couldn't just simply win. You couldn't run around, like a chicken without a head, just running around like an idiot, just like you do sometimes with COD. You have to put the effort. You have to know exactly what you are doing. You have to work as a team. So that was, to me, really what it prompted me into playing Battlefield. I did play a little bit of Battlefield 2, Bad Company 2, but it was not as intense as I did with Mag. And of course, Mag brought me to Battlefield 3, and I played Battlefield 3 nonstop. And after Battlefield 3, of course, Battlefield 4, I did play some COD, but Battlefield was the thing. And pretty much I've been playing first-person shooters since then, all kind of first-person shooters. And it's been years, since I've been, and I have for some reason, an infatuation with first-person shooters. They're very addictive. So I play with them. But, I do play fighting games from time to time because that's my thing. That's what I grew up. And I think that's the intention of this video. I've been talking about fighting games. You've seen my streaming with fighting games. I do miss the arcades. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about my experience growing up in the arcades. I grew up in Mexico. And for those who do not know, because sometimes this idea, when people think about Mexico, they think about a backward country, a place where you live in the mountains or you live in the countryside and you're walking around with a big honcho and a big sombrero, and you're walking with a donkey and all that stuff. That's just the idea sometimes we have in America of Mexico. But as a child in Mexico was for those that don't have an idea, Mexico has a very strong video game culture, very strong video game culture. And not only in Mexico, that goes for all Latin America, and anime culture. And even before it hits the United States. And not only that, video games, arcades in specific, have a very strong culture in Mexico. I would say even bigger culture than in the U.S. And I'm telling you, I've seen both sides of the border, so I know both sides of the border. So it is a stronger culture. Growing up in my town, in my hometown as a kid, there were more arcades in that town that I have ever seen together in any other part of the world. And have traveled. So there were, just in my hometown, there were probably around the same block, there were probably around 5 arcades. And back in the 90s, before the huge hit of arcades, even in the U.S. Many of the arcades, there was many of the video game arcades that happened in Asia, because Asia, of course, has the biggest culture in the world with arcades. Many of those games came to Mexico, to Latin America, even before they hit the market in the U.S. And even if they hit in the market in the U.S., there was a lot of these games were sent to Mexico. And SNK, for example, SNK, Neo Geo was extremely big even before it was in the U.S. So it wasn't rare to find arcade places and arcade cabinets all over the place. So growing up, I used to go when I was like 11 or 10. There were a lot of arcades, but the arcades, I remember my experience with them, was a subculture. It was a place where you find the undesirables. You find the people that you don't want to, you really don't want to deal with on the streets. And that was the appeal as a teenager. Find a place where I felt that people were cool, but my parents didn't want me to go there. My mother didn't want me to go there. So we went to church. We have to pass through the arcades, and she didn't want me to kind of look inside. But like any other kid, I'm picking inside because the place looks cool. So when I get the chance, every time my mother will, send me out, I have to go to a friend's house or have to go and buy some whatever. Mother would send me to buy bread or tortillas, which is something very common in Mexico. I will always stop by at the arcades. I will have to make the effort to put some money aside and shortchange my mother and go to the arcades. And even as later on in life, I will do some side jobs. And as soon as I got paid for doing whatever I have to do on the weekends, like going to see my grandma and painting her walls or whatever she want me to do, and she give me some cash, I will go and blow it in the arcades. And I did that day in and day out. I will go to school, and after school on the way back home, I will stop at the arcades and, spend my money there, my lunch money and all that. And I loved it. It was just a great time. And I was talking to a friend just recently about what it meant to me, what it really meant to me going through that experience, growing up through the arcade experience. It wasn't easy, you have to, when I got there, I was very young, and you're playing with people that are older. And let me give you an image of the arcades. It was not like Chuck E. Cheese. It was not a place where you go and play some games and everybody's nice and you see a Mickey Mouse there, figure just dancing around, acting up, all nice. No, it was a tough place. You found all kind of people there. Some people that you would think that they would have some problems with in some cases with the police. You have your drug dealers, you have the people that, that have no job, but I don't know how you realize that there was a fishy way for them to keep their money and be able to play out, to be able to spend a lot of money. You knew that something was up. And not only that, I saw, drug deals going on in the arcades. I saw, people being busted in the arcades by the police. I saw all kind of stuff in the arcades. You have all kind of people. But the great part of it was that there was a very different group. I saw people that were totally different than my point of view. I saw people, the guys that the guys that love to the punk rockers. You saw the people that they dress up like they love the hip hop part when it came out back in the 90s. You saw the guys that, there were all kind of people, even with all kind of sexual orientations. It was a still different world for someone like me that grew up in a Christian home. But it was interesting, and it was a place where you can see the world in an open view, and you can learn more about it. And I made a lot of friends. It was an interesting time, and the thing with the arcades is when you go on, not only the experience of the people you're dealing with, people were smoking there. There was no, like now the laws that you're not supposed to smoke indoors. People were smoking. Some of those arcades were really iffy, like you see the people there, you don't know quickly what the heck is going on there, but there's a lot of weird stuff going on there. And some people were smoking some weird stuff there too. So they were, this is Mexico. This is not the U.S. where they're trying to make it everything as friendlier as possible. This is Mexico. It was a tough place. But but it was fun, and I play so many different games and so many bootleg video games. I play so many different versions of Street Fighter versions that have never made it to the US, all kind of weird versions in the arcades. And it was fun. And the great part about the arcades is that it taught me a lesson. I learned so many lessons of hard work, because I have to work to make my money to kind of blow it into what I wanted with which video games, with the arcades, but also patience and be, to really think through things before I would, challenge someone. To know that if I'm challenging, I could lose my money, but to put everything into the table, all my effort, and learn the techniques, and also pay attention to what others were doing, because there was no walkthroughs. Like I was saying in my previous episode of this yesterday here in the podcast, I mentioned that there was no walkthroughs, there were no videos, there was no guides. Nintendo Power was already out there, the magazine, and you can get it, but Nintendo Power will not tell you about a lot of these games, and there were not many game magazines during that time, so there was no way for you to really know how to get someone, how to learn combos, or how to use certain things and certain features of some characters. You have to practice and you have to learn. You have to find it on your own. It was a eye-opening, because sometimes you're watching someone play a game, for example, Street Fighter. I'm going to use that example. The first time I saw someone using Dhalsim, I always saw Dhalsim as one of the most boring, stupidest character in the game. But I saw this guy managing Dhalsim in a way that I never seen anybody playing Dhalsim. So that really said, you know what? If he is a good character, he can keep people at bay, and he can manage it, then I can too. So I started practicing with Dhalsim. I started playing with Dhalsim. And sometimes when you play in the arcade, it's not like you take an arcade for yourself and you play by yourself. No, because at any time, anyone can just bring their quarters and they challenge you. So in between, you're learning with just playing with the CPU, playing against, in this case, the game, the arcade, you also have to play with real life people. So you have to learn on the go. So it was interesting. And sometimes I love to go early in the mornings on the weekends, because there was less people. So that means that I could practice more. So in the evenings, when it was really packed, then you can put your skills to the test. And I used to go, I'm telling you, I used to go several times, sometimes throughout the day. And there were a couple arcades that I used to favor over the others. And I did all kind of things, even I remember one of those arcades, one of the girls that you actually was the one in the counter, she will sometimes ask me to do a couple of things for her, like, good favors, like go and pick up lunch for her, and she will give me like quarters, she will give me a lot of quarters, just if I will just do that for her. And I will just go do that. It's a little tight job, but it will give me enough quarters to play out. She will give me enough credits just to play and practice. And I did that a lot, and I do remember fondly those years. Those were tough years for me as a teenager. There was a lot of confusion in my life, a lot of challenges, difficulties at school. There was a lot of, actually I got kicked out of a couple of schools because I was a trouble kid, not a trouble kid, but I was, challenged. It was going through challenges like every other kid with authority and all that kind of stuff. But the arcades became like a haven in many ways, a place where I can just put my skills to the test. And not only that, but I can just forget about the issues at school, the issues with my professors, the issues with the other kids, and just to, let go. And gaming has always been there as a lifesaver in that sense. And it was good to do that. And I did it for many years, and I loved that atmosphere. It was challenging. It was unbiased. It was not a place where that you just come and you just play and they're gonna treat you nicely. They're just gonna tear you apart if you don't get to, you don't practice, you don't put your effort. So, the win, it's a place for winners and losers. And, if you want to be a winner, you want to move up, then you need to work hard. You need to pay attention. You need to listen. You need to watch other people do it and learn and, time it right. And all of those things, it really helped us. It helped me growing up to understand the way the world functions. That is the world is the same as the arcades. It's just a bigger arcade where you're playing a game, and the game of life, and you have to put your effort or you're going to lose, and you have to pay attention. You have to listen. You have to watch, and you have to imitate what other people do, but the best way possible, and come up with your own technique, come up with your own style and things. And that's the part I have learned. And I think one of the biggest things I have with gaming today, which I love gaming. I love the fact that I can just sit down on the couch and play Mortal Kombat through, in my home, or, Street Fighter, all these fighting games and classic fighting games, and play them. And, and really don't feel that there's no sacrifice, because if I die, I just continue again, just press restart and go back again and reboot again. I didn't have the chance. You don't have the chance in the arcades. And if you run out of money, you run out of luck. So, it's easier now, of course, in the comfort of my home. Nobody's bothering me. I don't have to be standing up, or trying to fight for the little bar stool. That sometimes there are a few bar stools there. Whoever stays there the longer can stay with the bar stool. And you're standing up. And sometimes, some of those arcades got really cold or they got really warm. It depends on the weather. When there were a lot of kids around you, it got really warm and cozy, I would say, but also a little bothersome because everybody's watching over your back. And you have to learn to not pay attention to people talking to you or people talking around you. You have to pay attention on the game. And all those things were great, I would say, for me during that time. It was a great time, and I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about life there. And I feel that nowadays with, like I was going back to what I was saying with games that make it easier on you. And our kids don't know the sense of responsibility because everything is easier, and that's something that I do remember. You have to learn to lose. Like I was playing the other night, COD. I was Call of Duty, and, you're going in now into kind of first person shooters, talking about them. I was playing it and I was so bothered because I was listening to these kids after we lose the match. We lost the matches and they were like yelling and screaming like little, I don't know, like animals in pain because they lost the match. Like they were so frustrated. And I'm thinking this kid is perhaps like 9-10 years old and he's just screaming like a little piglet, just because he's frustrated about losing a game. And I found that like this kid would have never made it in the arcades because, you need to man up. You take your L and man up, and you have to, if you lose, and you move up and you just move aside, put another quarter in the line and wait until your turn comes and watch everybody else play and just learn, watch and learn. And I feel that nowadays kids don't have it that. They have it so easy that they get so frustrated, and the society and our culture try to kind of easy on them, try to make them feel good about their feelings, which I understand where everybody has feelings, but make them feel that, like saying it's not your fault, it's their fault. So it's somebody else's fault that they mess up, and to me, it's like, that's not true. You mess up, you had the opportunity, you failed, you were, you didn't pay attention, you were not good enough. And, just keep, just get over it and, learn from the mistake and move up and you'll get better over time. And I feel that that's the important aspect of what I learned in the arcades. That's what I remember the most. Yeah, I remember the kids. I remember some of my best friends during that time. I remember the crazy things I did, the crazy fights I got into, also physical fights there because, sometimes people don't like to lose and sometimes people say some mean things about your mother, things like that. But there was some of the greatest times and I learned a lot of lessons of life. And I do remember that. I feel like I've been going, in America, there's arcades still, sometimes there's a few, very few now they're still staying. But technically they don't have the same vibe that they used to do. In Mexico, they still have that, I think the stronger vibe in Latin America. But you have to keep in mind that a lot of, Mexico, a lot of kids could not afford to have, video games at home. And my parents were not fans of video games at home. So, you have to, sometimes the arcades became the only outlet for people to play video games. And for them to, put the money in it is the only place to go. And, it's, easier than just buying a home console during that time. So it was a bigger culture. I played with a lot of these games throughout the time, and I loved them. It was just the atmosphere, just the environment, be able to challenge others, and to be on top. Even when you lose, you try it again, and, until you get better at it. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I have there. And I think the one that our kids, this generation need more than ever. Learn to lose so they can become winners in the end. You have to learn to lose so you learn from those mistakes you make, and that will make you better next time around. So this is what I want to share today. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching this through YouTube. Hit the notification button so you're reminded of every single video every day. My podcast is Monday through Friday. So, please, subscribe to the podcast. You can find the links below. You can download this through iTunes. You can download it through, in this case through, Android. You have all the different other apps that you can download. And, please, consider just supporting this channel. Everything you help financially Whatever you are able to support, there's no small amount, will build this channel more and more in my podcast. So God bless you. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.